So good morning, my name is Orialis. We're here today. Joining us is a renowned symbolic experiential therapist. So we're going to be lucky enough. He's brought a clip using a fictional family that he was working with. He's going to just talk to us a little bit about the symbolic experiential model, kind of what it looks like, what the therapist-client relationship looks like, some of the techniques from it. And then we're going to watch the clip, and then afterward he'll be talking to us a little bit about, kind of his work with that family in particular. So can you give us a synopsis of the symbolic experiential model? Just talk to us a little bit about the theory kind of behind that.
Well, it's a humanistic and multi-generational model. It's a lot more focused on the here and now and the process, more so than any planned or preconceived ideas that I have about the family or any techniques that I want to use.
It sounds like you're like really present with them.
Yeah, I'm. It's kind of the whole idea of presence is more so like I am coming into with, of course, a direction, but not so much a goal or a specific blueprint for the session. It's more so I respond to what I see with whatever of course, like, whatever I'm feeling in the moment, expressing that to them, but I'll get to that later. But more so just adjusting my treatment approach to what I see that session, regardless of how many sessions we've had or what my expectations are, just to completely be present with them.
So really coming at it sounds like every week, very, very fresh, very like in that moment with the family. Like you said, not really bringing in those preconceptions from previous sessions, really being present.
Right, and then of course the overall direction that I do maintain is the focus on both individual self-actualization and growth, and also just family growth as well. And despite not letting my preconceptions guide what I do pay attention to things like that, patterns and themes and symbolism in things that have been said. And so I'll remember things from previous sessions and see if I can find connections, and then I'll bring those up to the clients. But other than keeping those in mind, they don't necessarily guide what I do that session. It's just really just helping me to conceptualize what they're presenting.
Okay. When you're talking about symbolism and kind of using that with the family, could you talk a little bit more about that or provide like an example?
Well, making them aware of the patterns and themes is one way, but the overall goal when I do reflect that to them is to shake things up. So people do these things, whether it's verbally, non-verbally, consciously, but they're unaware of these patterns. And so helping them become aware of it is one way to shake things up, although there are many ways to do that. But that goal ultimately is to break these rigid behaviors, make them aware and comfortable expressing their emotions, really just seeing what they've been doing this whole time and how that's sometimes not very genuine.
Okay, so it sounds like kind of one of the things that you're really focusing on with the family is, again, coming into the system, shaking it up, and then creating a little bit of that anxiety to get some movement going. Can you talk to us more about some of your goals when you're working with the family?
Right. So like you mentioned, the whole point of shaking things up is because the way things currently work, they're not working. The way they're presenting their rigid roles, their behaviors, their patterns, everything is just not working. And so the entire point of shaking things up is kind of to introduce some craziness in a sense, some spontaneity. Usually I will throw something out of left field or confront someone about something, and basically shake things up, doing things that are not socially acceptable in session, and encouraging them to shift roles, and be more flexible, kind of allows them to let go of whatever rigidity exists. And it's not to say that behaving a certain way consistently is necessarily negative, but in most cases, if I'm using this approach with them, it has led to negative consequences in the family. So shaking things up and allowing more freedom could potentially lead to them, at the very least, being more accepting towards change, because they're getting used to it during session. more accepting towards the idea of changing their responses to things or changing how they express themselves.
Right, especially if they've been, kind of coming to you, that probably means they've been stuck in these ways for
Right.
quite some time. So it sounds, kind of when you say that, that seems to go totally away from a lot of the other models. You wouldn't really hear other counselors talk about, making things crazy and, wanting that intentionally in the session.
And it kind of ties into the whole not having a specific ultimate goal. Because I'm not trying to change them in a specific way, I'm just trying to allow them to change. And it's kind of like, it
So you're
doesn't,
not coming in with an agenda.
I kind of am, but not in a specific direction. It's more so I'm here to shake things up, and then where things go from here is up to you. It's kind of like I'm not here to turn you in from where you are into something specific that I have in mind. I'm just here to create an environment that allows you to change when you don't necessarily feel like you can or don't see the incentive to. And then once they allow themselves to exhibit some craziness and to be more loose and to be more flexible, they may find that they're more able to not just be more genuine or be more accommodating to the other members, but just to live life more flexibly and more enjoyably than to just be stuck in one specific role. But this does have to be done. This does have to be done on a systemic level, where all of them are doing this together. Because if just one person feels that flexibility, if everyone else is locked into their roles, it won't work.
Okay, so really bringing, again, like the whole family in. You want to be able to work with the whole family. So is that kind of extended family, different generations?
It is a multi-generational approach. So if different generations and extended family are available, then yes. Like in the example family used today, there was the grandmother involved. So she really isn't extended family per se because she lives with them, so it's more like an immediate system. But if, say, she didn't live with them, I would still want her to come in if she was available.
Okay. So you can see those different influences throughout?
Exactly, and in the session also we do highlight a theme between the way the grandmother and the mother interact and the way the mother and her daughter interact, and that we would not have highlighted that or found that if the grandmother didn't come. But that said, with all that in mind, I also make sure not to pathologize their experiences. So while there are themes and patterns, that doesn't mean like, oh, there's something wrong or oh, you're doing this wrong. It's more like just making them aware of it, and usually awareness and insight into this, along with the flexibility of knowing they can change through the activities in session, it usually allows them to adapt to seeing these negative patterns without me having to tell them to.
Right, okay, so really, again, not saying like there's something wrong with you, but really trying to normalize, what they're going through, because there may already be so much stigma, to coming to counseling anyway. So, can you tell us about your approach to exploring the family system?
Right. So, to give you a good example, we talked about like rigidity in terms of behavior, and that's the way that would play into a system is through interactions, through boundaries, and not just rigidity, but just unhealthy boundaries, unhealthy alliances between the family members, helping to highlight that through activities and through conversation, basically, to increase their awareness of how detrimental these things can be, both their interactions with each other and also their interactions within themselves and the outside world, how accepting they are to new members and to other people, how intense or strict the rules and expectations are, and also how certain interactions within the family, within, say, between two members, might affect the others.
Okay, so really looking more at, so again, looking at all the different alliances, all the different relationships between, individuals. So not just, are they stuck in their own ways, but are there ways of relating and communicating to each other? Are those kind of, again, just very rigid, ways of doing that? Right.
And so in the session, you'll see I give them full autonomy to decide, okay, now that you're aware of this, what would you like the ideal situation to be in? What would you need from other members? And then also reflecting on what other members need from you, and are you willing to provide that? So I don't give them any direction, I just allow them to communicate with each other about what they want.
Right. So yeah, it sounds like really, enhancing that in individuality, and then also really focusing on that communication so that they can actually openly ask for what they need as opposed to just going, along with these patterns that have been set forever.
Right. And also respond to the other members' verbalized needs. So like you said, there is that sense of the individual growth and autonomy and be able to communicate clearly what you want and what you need and what you see and how you're being affected. And then also the connectedness there is listening and giving instruction on to the other members about what I want from you, and then responding to what they want from you, and okay, how am I willing to accommodate this?
So I'm curious to know, I'm sure that our viewers are too, can you tell us a little bit about what the relationship looks like between yourself and the clients?
Okay. I guess first and foremost, I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I want to model what I expect and want for my clients. And so even though I don't want them to develop in a specific direction, I do want them to be able to be honest and present and direct with their emotions and their thoughts, even if they're negative. And so I want to be honest and direct and transparent with everything that I'm thinking and feeling. With that in mind, I do need to be warm and empathetic generally for that to be a foundation for my confrontation and for my directness and for all that, so that the family understands where I'm coming from. And they know that I have their best interest in mind, and so it's kind of like starting with that foundation, then easing into that kind of complete openness.
Okay, so it sounds like it's really important for a therapist working from this model to have that strong therapeutic alliance. So the family really knows that you're on their side, and yes, sometimes you may say things that kind of like come from left field or maybe a little shocking or crazy, as you said, but at the end of the day, it's because you're here to help them, so they really need to trust that.
And like you said with left field, sometimes I'll use self-disclosure, I'll tell stories, I'll use humor, not just get across what I want to the best way I think I can, but also, like you said, to stir things up. And sometimes people won't really expect humor from a counselor.
Right.
To be able to do it unsuccessfully, to change the atmosphere of a situation.
So what's your role? So are you coming in and kind of like making yourself a part of the family? Are you separate from them? How do you?
So part of the main goal is to disrupt the family, essentially. I'm not becoming part of them. I am entering their system, but I'm not part of the family. I'm pretentious as it sounds, I'm an instrument of change. I'm there to facilitate change, get in, stir things up, stir the pot, and get out. So I don't just get in, get out. I jump in, I disrupt everything, I make everyone crazy, and then see what happens. And then as I see that they're slowly putting, gradually increasing their responsibility and their directness and their ability to function without me, I kind of pull myself out. And so it's as I do this, what I'm doing by completely just flipping over the table and forcing them to deal with everything that I'm putting out there.
To take responsibility for everything.
Essentially what I'm doing is I'm providing them the autonomy and the trust that, hey, I'm not giving you any directions. I'm just facilitating this. So I just ruined this all for you. Now you got to put it back together, hopefully in a different way than it was before I ruined it.
Right, and hopefully they'll be motivated by that anxiety or by all that change.
I'm glad you use that word because that is essentially the main tool of change that is anxiety, which is odd because usually people go to counseling for anxiety, but healthy anxiety is basically anxiety that produces change. People say pain is the biggest motivator of change. I don't want to cause them pain, so we settle for anxiety. Yeah. And you have to be strategic about it. I can't just stir things out willy-nilly and not get all concerned for their emotions and how they're feeling. I do take it into consideration, but I trust that the environment I create is one that is conducive to change, and that's why, given my alliance with them and given the boundaries that I've set, which are very, very, I guess, adamant about explaining that I'm in charge of the session, you're in charge of change. But given that environment, I do very much feel like what I do is conducive to them using that anxiety to change in any direction other than the one they started in.
Any other direction?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
You know, I think that you did an amazing job, you know, explaining the theory, and we're really excited. So we'll take a little time and we'll watch the video with the fictional family that you brought in. So thank you.
Okay guys, so last week we talked about the issues that we were kind of here for. It seemed like it was mostly focused on Crystal, but we kind of addressed how everyone's own individual goals are important, right? And as well as our familial goals. So I guess I'm just curious, before we get started, what's gone on last week?
What hasn't gone on in the last week? I'm way overburdened. I'm very curious to hear about this. All right, can I go now?
Go ahead.
All right, so I'm working all day, 2 jobs. I come home, I have no help. She's doing this. She's over there with her arms crossed.
What's this?
Excuse me. See, she's doing it.
Well,
She does it all the time.
Can you explain it to me?
He can't really see what I'm doing. So.
Can I explain it to him? Alright, thank you. She's interrupting. She's criticizing me. She's constantly nagging and telling me I'm not parenting well enough. I'm sick of it. That's what happened last week.
And you're shaking your head, so you disagree with that.
I mean, of course I'm nagging, everything's going wrong. Do you see what your daughters are doing?
It's not my fault.
They're your daughters.
Doing the best I can.
And this is why I don't come home anymore.
Why? What do you get from all this?
I mean, like, why would I want to be home if, like, they're always fighting with each other? I'd rather just, like, be with my friends. They actually, like, want to be around me, and they're fun to be around. They're just always fighting.
We're your family, you're too young to make those kinds of decisions.
But, like, why would I want to be home if you guys
She's
are always
my
fighting?
kid. Can you let me parent her, please?
You're not doing a very good job.
You don't let me. I don't even have a chance to say anything.
I don't know, I'm trying to help.
Well, it's not helping very much.
Wow, I'm glad everyone's being so honest. It seems like a lot of this ties into what I was going to say about today, which is I wanted to try something different and kind of do an exercise that allows us to be very straightforward and honest with everything we're thinking and feeling. So you guys already got a head start on that, so that's good. And so despite, I want to come back to everything that's been said, but despite the fact that originally everyone kind of came together in agreement that Crystal's issue was why we were here, it seems like there are a few different issues going on between different family members. The one thing that I have not heard is that I have not heard anyone have an issue with Ellie. Is that correct?
I mean, she's 10. Who's going to have an issue with her?
So I would like to know Ellie's perspective, and I don't just want to hear her say it. I'd rather her show us what she sees, since she seems to be the only outside perspective in these conflicts. She's not part of any of them.
I'm curious as to how having the 10-year-old do this, how that's going to be helpful for our family.
Well, maybe we'll learn something from it for once, because clearly we need some help. I'm willing to try anything.
I appreciate that. It seems like your age and your wisdom and your experience makes you feel like other people's input might not be as valid as yours, like you know better than them.
I have had a lot of life experience. I feel like I could be, helpful and useful to people if they were willing to listen.
Okay. Do you think that people learn well from modeling, from receiving modeling?
What do you mean? As in me doing something? And
Like if you want other people to listen to you, do you think you might be able to get them to listen to you by showing them you can listen? That seems
maybe.
like
It might be an idea.
All right.
I hadn't considered it.
So
That's
would you be
an
willing?
idea.
Okay. So would you be willing to humor this exercise?
I'll
See
be
where it
willing
goes.
to try and see what happens. Yes.
And I'm sure if your family members could see that you're listening and you're allowing them to give their perspectives, even if they may not be as valid as yours in your eyes, that they might be more willing to listen to yours, despite their opinions of those as well. Okay. So this is something called family sculpting. And essentially, we're going to be getting out of our seats, and we're going to allow Ellie to position us in whatever stance or location that she sees fit, that she sees that represents home life, that she sees that represents the conflicts and the love and whatever relationships and dynamics exist at home. So, are you up to do that?
Yeah, sounds fun.
Okay. So, if we could all just stand up.
Brother. So what do I do?
Okay, so you're basically going to be positioning your family in a way that, imagine like a dollhouse. Like if you were to put them in the positions where they normally are at home, in making gestures or in next to each other or away from each other or next to you or away from you.
Okay.
Sitting, standing, however you feel like they are at home generally.
Okay. I think I'll start with Crystal. You're not home very much, so you're always kind of going towards the door, so maybe you come over here, like you're walking. Wait, come back. And just kind of just like you're walking away. You know?
Okay.
Okay.
Of course, I'm always going by the door.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not actually supposed to leave.
I mean, like, this is kind of dumb, but I'll stay, whatever.
And Grandma, I think maybe turn this way a little bit and stand just like that. Maybe have your arms. Yeah, okay. And now, Mom, you should turn this way.
Like this.
Mm-hmm. And actually, come and sit on the floor with me. You're gonna be down here with me.
Okay.
We'll be down here together.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe you're kind of sad a lot, maybe a little stressed, maybe just kind of tired.
Like this?
Yeah. I think that's good. And maybe a little bit more upset. I think you're very upset lately.
More
Am
upset?
I like over her or what's going on?
You're kind of a little angry.
Angry.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Ellie, what is it like seeing the family like this? This is your sculpture.
It's weird. It's come to life, like a lot of the stuff going on at home. It's not very nice feeling though, because I don't want Mom to be sad. I know she's really stressed. And Crystal, I mean, she's my sister. I want to hang out with her, but she's always leaving, and it makes me upset too. So, but she's way over there, you know.
I mean, like, it's not like I don't want to hang out with you, but, like, Mom and Grandma are, like, always fighting, so, like, I don't want to be there. And you seem, like, fine on your own, so.
Well, what's it like?
Makes me really sad that they're so far away from each other. I mean, you're sitting, she's standing, she's over there, you're way over here. You feel so distant, it makes me even more sad.
And then Grandma, I love you, Grandma, but you guys, you fight, and it's not nice to hear it all the time.
So you hear that a lot?
Yeah.
What are Grandma's arms doing? What does this represent?
Kind of like she's in charge in Mom's house.
I get the same vibe.
I guess I don't really see what's wrong with that.
It wasn't always like that. I mean, Dad recently passed away, and then you came in, and it was just me, Crystal, and Mom for a while, so it was just a little different. Kind of having you come in like a bird hovering over all of us.
Grandma, you don't see anything wrong with that?
Well, I mean, what you're saying is right, Ellie. You know, I came in after, Dad passed away. I wanted to come here and help you guys, be supportive to you guys. I was far away.
And it's been nice having you here, but just the fighting is not fun.
And
Just
Mary,
didn't realize
you
that.
were saying that you don't see what's wrong with you being in charge, right?
Yeah.
Well, you just put your arms down. Why? What was it like holding them up for so long?
I mean, that was if they were starting to hurt.
Well, they wouldn't have to hurt if you let the person who did all the work and all the cleaning and taking care of the family actually be in charge of the house.
I guess I'm kind of feeling like I'm kind of just being pushed away here a little bit.
I think Crystal's being pushed away here a little bit. You still seem very much in the picture.
I don't feel like I'm in the picture.
Well, you are the picture.
I feel like I've been trying to get in the picture.
I don't know, maybe like, yeah, like you said, like you guys are like pushing me out of the house. Like, I want to be home. Like, that's my little sister. Like, I want to spend time with her, but like, I have to do it at home, and I don't want to be home when you guys are fighting like that.
I mean, you're talking about the house as if it's some evil trap,
I
you
mean,
know?
like, but that's what it feels like. Like, that's what it is. If you guys are fighting all the time and arguing, like, why would I want to be home?
Let's put a pin in this for a second. Why don't we see what Ellie would want this all to look like? Can you redo this sculpture, not as it is right now at home, but as you would want it to be?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Maybe we can stand and not just have you and me down here. And maybe Crystal come back over here. You could put your arms down, Grandma. I mean, a little bit closer together. Maybe a smile from both of you guys. And then Crystal, come on over. And maybe you're all hugging. That'd be nice. So like we like hug. Just kind of, put our, just touching each other. There's a closeness, I feel, now. And before we're all spread out.
I don't think we've been this close in a really long time.
So even though this is just a sculpture, it's an activity, what does it feel like?
I mean, it is nice to be, not hovering above everyone, just kind of at an equal, status and feel closer.
Feels warm.
Like, I'm here and I feel fine because they're not fighting right now, but as soon as they start fighting, I know I'm going to want to leave.
But if this was the case, not the fighting that you're anticipating, is this okay?
I mean, yeah, right now it's fine.
What do you feel, Ellie?
Happy.
Anybody else feel happy?
Ish. A little uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not really normal. But I mean, I'm happy that Ellie's happy. I didn't realize, quite how much, I just didn't realize how much it was, I guess you were noticing,
Does anyone disagree about how this sculpture should look?
I mean, like, I don't think, like, a family needs to be, like, all, like, hugging all the time. But, like maybe if they weren't, like, fighting, then I would be home to, like, make her happy. Because she clearly, like, wants us to, like, be together. But I don't think that we're, like, a hugging type of family. I don't know.
So maybe just more relaxed.
Yeah.
We could be relaxed.
It's like Ellie's being very responsive to everyone's needs. So why don't we piggyback off of that, let her model it for us. If we wanted to achieve this sculpture genuinely and not have it lead to what Crystal said, which is just fighting and then immediately this sculpture breaks apart, right? Let's say we needed glue to hold this together. I would like each of you to tell the others what it is you would want from them. And we're not talking about what we think will actually happen. We're not talking about what's realistic or what they'll actually do or what seems reasonable. Just what would you want from everyone else in this sculpture, from them, to hold this together. And keep in mind, when you're saying this, and also from each other, when you're hearing this, you're going to have a chance to tell the others as well. So everyone's going to hear what others think they should do to hold this together. So can we start with Mary?
Okay. Well, I mean, I would really appreciate if people could, I have had my own family, I am older, I do have wisdom, and I would appreciate if people would actually listen to that wisdom and kind of take it into account.
So it's a specific situation.
Like with parenting concerns, I feel like I could be helpful to you in that, and you're unwilling to listen to anything that I have to offer. So I would appreciate being kind of listened to in that regards. I would appreciate if
What would it look like if she did listen to you? Does that mean she would do what you suggested? I just want to get as specific as possible. That way, when we leave here today, and we keep all this in mind, whether we do it or not, we know exactly what the other person, other people want from us.
I mean, I think that I do have good ideas that she could at least be willing to try. I think usually just because it's coming from my mouth, she's not going to listen to it. So I would appreciate that. I mean, Crystal, I want Crystal to be home. I want you to actually have dinner with us. We're your family. I know you feel like your friends are more important, but we are also important.
Do you have anything for Ellie?
Nothing that comes to mind right now.
Okay. All these things, I mean, none of them are permanent. None of them mean we're actually going to go and do these right now. So if you do think of something, or if you want to change any of the things you said, you always can. So before we move on to Lucy, what is it like for you two to hear that from her? What's your response to that request?
Me?
Either of you. Or even Ellie, by not hearing something. Anyone can speak up.
I mean, I don't know. I just think that they're gonna just start fighting because Mom gets really mad when Grandma's trying to control everything that she does, and that's every time they fight, that's what it's about. So I just don't think that Grandma just saying oh, I want you to listen to me is gonna do anything. Then I'm not gonna come home. You want me home, I'm not gonna be home. I like being with my friends. I don't want to be home all the time.
She says she wants to be heard, but I think it's easier to be heard when you're not constantly criticizing or offering feedback that I don't care to hear, because I'm a parent and I know how to parent and I know you're my mom, but sometimes you have to let me do what I need to do with these kids, and offering all the feedback and criticism all the time doesn't help me want to listen to you. That's what it feels like for me.
So just to summarize, Crystal, your condition for honoring this request from your grandmother would be to not come home to fighting all the time.
Yeah. I don't if I walk in the house, I come home and they're fighting, I just leave because I don't want to be there. So
Right.
if I came home and they weren't fighting, I guess then I would probably stay.
And Lucy, your condition for honoring this request would be to not receive so much criticism. So if it was just advice or information or input, and you didn't feel like someone was being critical of you while they were giving it to you, you feel like it'd be better for you. You'd be able to receive it better.
That, and I don't need to hear it all the time.
So the frequency,
frequent,
how often
yeah.
it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is
So
it
am I
like
just
here?
supposed to stay quiet and wait for you to come to me? That's never going to happen. You're never going to come to me.
Well, we got to figure out how to do it somehow because we live under the same roof. So.
Well, how long has this habit been going on about this type of communication between the two of you?
I mean, probably since she was a teenager.
So how do you know that she'll never come to you when so far you've not given her the opportunity to come to you?
Good question.
I feel like that's why I would go to her, because I wanted her to know that I was there. But just the more I go to her, the more she pushes away. I just don't know what to do. I'm just being pushed away.
Have you ever felt that, Lucy, in your life? Where you want to be there for someone, you want to help someone, and by attempting to, you end up pushing them away?
Yeah, I guess. Once or twice.
What about with Crystal? Something must be really funny. You guys keep cracking up.
Crystal's never home.
What is this laughter? Where is it coming from?
I guess you're right.
remember what we talked about before was being as open and honest with our emotions and our thoughts, right? So I'm assuming you're not laughing because it's funny.
No, I mean, I guess I feel like you just called me out. And in my discomfort, all I know to do is laugh.
So you're uncomfortable because of what? What did I say that made you uncomfortable?
Because you're right, and I'm realizing now that it's all connected. You know, I'm pushing her away through fighting, and she feels like she's being pushed away, and it seems like I'm the common thread here.
I think you're a good mom.
Thank you.
I think
Sometimes I don't feel that way, though.
seeing yourself as the common thread could definitely make you feel bad about this, and I can see that. If I'm the common factor, then I must be what's wrong. But something worth keeping in mind is what you guys are arguing about, right? It's about your kids. So it's not just that you are what's linking everything, and that means that you're negative and you're a negative influence on the family. This is a system. And even Ellie, who no one appears to have a problem with, is part of the system, and everyone influences everyone else. Which is why we're talking about what it is that we want from each other. What are we doing to contribute to what's going on? You are a common thread, but so is everyone else in this family.
I feel like I'm the one taking all the responsibility for it.
What's that like to hear, you guys? That Lucy feels that she's the common thread, therefore she's the problem, and she needs to take all the responsibility.
I mean, like, I never, like, had a problem with just, like, mom. Like, it wasn't, like she works, and she's always tired, like, I get it, but, like, it's the way, like, her and grandma are. Like, they're, like, constantly, like, at each other's throats, and I don't like it, and, like, it was just so much better, like, when Dad was here, because, like, this is just not okay.
There's nothing we can do to bring it back.
Like, I know, I get it.
Seems like the atmosphere just changed as soon as Crystal mentioned your late husband. I could see the most on your face.
I feel like everything's just crumbled since then. I mean, she says it started when I was a teenager, but I think it started when that happened and she moved in and all of our worlds just got flipped upside down.
I mean, that is obviously very painful, but I think there's a silver lining to what you just said. Before you were saying that you feel like you're the problem. You have all the responsibility, you're the common thread, everything's on you. And now we're highlighting that this system used to have another person in it, and another very powerful, important part, and that part's gone now. And so your entire system is now trying to adjust to that. And everyone plays an equal role, whether it seems like it or not. And so it's not that this is all on you, and it seems like no one else really thinks that.
I mean, I feel like I kind of came in to try and help after your dad died.
Yeah, but, like, it doesn't seem like it's helping, you know? Like,
So, like, I'm making it worse.
like, now it's just gonna be like, oh, like, who am I gonna blame? But, like, I'm not, it's just, like, both of you, I guess, I don't know.
I think we all have to take a piece of responsibility in this. Like, if I'm going to feel like I'm not the whole reason why all this is happening, then someone else has to say that they're taking responsibility for some of it. Because you're out running around
So you're saying I have to
doing
take
drugs
responsibility?
with all of your friends constantly. You are never home.
Because you guys
You're
are
in my ear
helping.
constantly, right? And I've got Ellie over here, like, pulling my pant leg while I'm trying to make dinner, and I can't play with her all night. Like, I can't do it all. I can't take all the responsibility for this.
Let's get to your requests. What would you need from each of your family members to help this second family sculpture stay in place?
I think I know I need my mom to lay off a bit and trust that I can be a good parent and know that I'm doing my best to raise these children. I know you want to help, and I know the reason why you came to stay with us is because you saw an opportunity to help.
Yeah,
Helping.
you can notice that.
Helping would be laying off a bit.
What about her fear that you won't come to her if she lays off?
We'll never get there if we don't try. Like, if she never lays off, we'll never even know. I think, like, she's my mom. Obviously, I care about what she has to say, but there's a certain extent to where she continues to nag and it pushes me away further. I want to come to you. I need help, clearly. I need help with this. So, I'm willing. We just gotta meet in the middle.
I think that's already progress right there. Not to make too big of a deal out of it. I know you want to get to the other family members, but just to see that interaction where, Lucy, you were admitting that you needed help. I haven't heard you say that before. I've only heard you kind of just respond negatively to your mother's attempts to help. And then Mary, to hear that and to just nod in agreement and have that genuine expression on your face where you accepted what she said without any kind of response.
Yeah, I mean, we don't usually get to talk like this. It's usually the yelling and the screaming and so I didn't really, it was really nice to hear that from her, that she does want my help.
Right. I can see that you guys are getting, with the emotions and also standing out, getting a little fatigued, so why don't we sit back down and then we'll continue this? Alright, so I'm assuming everyone feels better sitting down now.
Yeah.
So I noticed you guys sat in different places.
Oh. I mean, I think we're just going back to our seats and we just sat down. I don't really think anything of it.
I do. Because I know that from our first session, you were kind of giving off the impression that you were kind of resorting to spending time with Ellie to kind of de-stress from everything. And so you two were sitting next to each other. And Krista was sitting as close to the door as possible, which I'm assuming she does at dinner or in her classes. So it might seem like these nonverbal cues are insignificant, we do them without thinking, but seeing you sitting in different places now, where you don't need Ellie next to you to feel comfortable and you're not anywhere close to the door, that says something to me. I might be reaching though.
I think you make a good point.
I mean, like, it made me sad when Ellie started talking about how, like, I'm always, like, walking out the door and, like, how she wanted us to, like, be together, so I guess, like, I just wanted to, like, sit next to her.
What's it like to sit next to your sister now?
It's good. We don't hang out very much, so it feels nice.
So let's continue with what Lucy was saying about your requests from the other family members to maintain this ideal sculpture.
Yeah, I think for Crystal, we've got to get this problem under control.
Which one?
Well, I guess we could start with the drug use. She's a teenager, and her being out all the time really scares me. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to parent, and I think, we gotta have more time together. What you're doing is really risky, and it really scares me, and I don't know what I would do if you weren't here.
Seems like your entire body just closed up hearing that.
I mean, like, I'm only talking about it with them. Like, I'm getting older, like, I'm almost a grown up, and I don't know why it's such a big deal that I'm just, like, not at home, and, like, it's not like I'm, like an addict or something.
It's not just that you're not at home, like you're hanging out with people who are going to get you mixed up in the wrong crowd, and I don't want your life to go down that road. I saw what happened with your father, and I'm not letting it happen to you.
This is something where you really need to be listening to your mother?
Like, I'm listening to her, but, like, I don't know what you want me to say.
I want you to say that you're gonna come be a part of this family again.
Like, if I do that, you guys have to stop fighting. Like, I'll be home more if you guys just stop fighting.
I'm willing to work on that to get her back home because she's gonna end up gone. And I know this family can't do that again.
Like, earlier when they were, like, talking and, like, listening to each other, like, that was cool. Like, I don't mind being home when you guys do that. So you could just do more of that and, like, actually, like, talk to each other, I guess.
It's something that your grandmother and I need to work on.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work on that, but I need to know that you're gonna do your part too.
Like, what does that mean? Like, what do you want me to do?
I want you to stop using drugs. Bottom line,
Okay.
I'm your mother. I can want you home and want the best things for you.
We want you to spend time with us. We want you to spend time with your sister.
I want to do that too. Like, I want to, like, spend time with her and, like, be home, but, like, I want to be happy too, you know? Like, I want to,
So you're not happy at home?
no.
You're happy out using drugs?
I'm happy with my friends.
Your friends are gonna get you killed.
It seems like when we're talking about being home and being part of the family and spending time with each other, Crystal opens up and she's communicative about it. She's willing to, and then as soon as Lucy or Mary bring the friends into it, it seems like that's when she shuts down.
Yeah.
Like she's okay with you insulting the drugs and the lifestyle, but not her friends.
I think her friends are important. She needs friends. She's a teenager. Like, she's finding out who she is, and she, you know, needs to spend time with her friends, but that doesn't include the friends who use drugs.
Like, that's the first time I've ever heard you say that. All I hear is you talking, like, bad about my friends. Like, you don't want me to have friends. Like, I just have to be home all the time.
I don't want you to have friends who are using.
Okay, well then I don't know. I'll be home more.
I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know, I feel like every time we interact, everything's fine with Ellie. I'm very close to Ellie. We have a great relationship. And I don't know, she hasn't really done anything to stir the pot.
Okay. Well, let's get to Crystal, and then we'll get to Ellie last, because I want to hear what Ellie has to say too. But it seems like after the discussion we just had, I really want to know where Crystal is at right now.
Like, to each of them?
Or just in general, with the discussion, and the subject of your friends and drugs and being home.
I mean, like, I feel like every time, like, I want to go somewhere and, like do something that's not at home, like, you guys don't want me to, like, go anywhere. You know, like, I want, like, I'm, like I said, I'm, like, almost an adult. Like, I can be with my friends. I don't have to be home all the time. But, like, I can be home more if it was, like, more, like, relaxed, I guess. Like, you guys are always fighting, so I'll come home more, and maybe then, like, I won't be hanging out with the people that you don't want me to hang out with.
I feel like you're blaming us for your choice. You're talking about being an adult, but you're making choices that are not mature, that are not positive choices. I don't know that you're just blaming us for everything.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just, like, it's, like, that's why, it just, for me, like, that's why I don't want to come home, is because I don't like the fighting. I'm not blaming you and saying it's your fault that I'm doing drugs and, like, hanging out with bad people or whatever. It's just, I don't like being home. Those are just the people that I hang out with because they are nice to me, they like me, and they're not fighting like you guys fight. And so I just want to be there, not here.
If you were a concerned parent, would you want your kid doing that?
No.
I like that you asked that question. First, I wanted to acknowledge that, Mary, I could tell you almost said something along the lines of, you're young or you don't understand. I could tell you were about to say something similar to what you said before the session. I could tell that you decided to just say what you were going to say in terms of how you're feeling and not shut your granddaughter down entirely just because of her age or her experience. So I think that definitely affected how she responded, even if it seems like it's something really subtle.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I also like how you brought up, how would you feel in this position? Because that's called empathy. That's essentially putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And after we get through all this, I'd like to attempt to do that just very briefly. But aside from that, so we'll definitely get back to that. What requests would you have from your family members?
I don't know, I guess you guys could talk to each other a little nicer and just like listen to what like mom is like working and like dad's not here anymore and she has to do it all on her own, but like you also don't get to just like come in and try to like be like a second parent, like you're a grandma, you know? So it's just talk to each other instead of fighting all the time, and then I guess like it would be nicer to be at home.
I could see that grandma got kind of taken back by what you said about her not being a second parent.
Like she's her grandmother. Like
What does that mean as far as your interactions with her or the dynamic at home?
the way it is now. I don't know. I feel like before she moved in with us, she was like grandma. You know, like we could just like hang out with her and just like have fun.
Yeah, visit her on holidays, and she would cook us yummy food, cookies.
Yeah, and like that like doesn't happen anymore because she's living with us, which is fine, but it's like she's trying to like be like another mom or something.
I could see when you brought up when you two were talking about the past before grandma lived with you.
Yeah.
This was the first time everyone was genuinely smiling. Crystal a little bit, but everyone else.
It's hard to get her to smile.
I do remember us like baking and like you guys coming over, you know, for holidays.
And so it seemed like originally when she said what she said, you were kind of taken back physically. It seemed like you were, or rather than me reflecting it, what were you feeling when she said that?
I mean, I guess it was almost like almost like a rejection a little bit, like of me wanting to help, and I was kind of like confused by what you meant by being grandma and not like another parent. But then when you kind of further explained it, you know, I'm not trying to replace dad. I'm not trying to be another mom. I guess I just thought that I was helping by kind of, you know, taking on a little bit more of like the parenting, and I didn't realize that you're right, you know, we haven't had those kind of like fun times like we used to, you know, from before. So.
I agree as far as my outsider perspective. I felt that when it felt like rejection for sure, and I wanted to kind of explore that, but it seemed like you guys did it on your own. And what I got from that afterwards, from seeing everyone's response to that and your reflection just now, is that grandma and us have had great experiences, but when she was filling in her role, not when she was trying to fill in someone else's role.
Yeah.
And I think it is admirable and natural for you to want to fill a role that has now been removed from the family.
Right, I mean, I saw how everyone was struggling, and, you know, I just genuinely, I wanted to help you guys.
And so the problems that we face as a system, as a family, I realized we came in here with the mindset of it's because of certain people's personalities or certain people doing this or certain people doing that. And we briefly talked about how it's the system, it's everyone. But something that's worth keeping in mind, and I think this is a perfect example, is that the problems that we face are not because one of us or a few of us have bad personalities or bad traits. It's usually because we're attempting to adapt to something and we fail at it. And so it's worth acknowledging what everyone is doing right now. Lucy, you're taking on all this responsibility, and so when you are interacting with the family, it's kind of stressed. But rather than viewing it as you're a stressed person. It's more so this is a byproduct of you attempting to support the family, to adjust to this new situation. And Mary, now that there's a role that needs to be filled, even though there's more conflict in the household now, that stemmed from an attempt to, okay, I need to take control, I need to fix this situation, I need to be there. And Crystal's kind of being viewed as like, I don't want to be a part of this at all. And I think that's not where you're at right now. It's more so, I can't be a part of this. It's just painful every time I come home and I witness this. And my response, my survivalist response is just to get out of here so I don't have to suffer.
So that was a really interesting video, and I really have some questions about some of the things you chose to do in the video. So can you kind of talk to us about, why is it that you chose Ellie as the person to do the family sculpting?
Right. I mean, I had them confirm it beforehand, but my suspicion was that Ellie wasn't really part of any struggle or conflict, at least not directly, that they were aware of.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there were conflicts between every family member, every pairing, Lucy and Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and Crystal and Lucy, but Ellie was not directly a part of any conflict, which is why I asked them what was going on during the week beforehand to see if I was wrong. But since it seemed like she was the most unbiased outsider observer
Mm-hmm.
within her own family, I thought it'd be interesting to see that perspective as opposed to if we had any of the other family members crafted, it would have been probably a more extreme, a more biased,
Mm-hmm.
and it is supposed to be biased, obviously, but I feel like based on where we ended up getting in the discussion,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have gotten there if our basis was such an extreme one. I feel like that would have ended up antagonizing certain family members more likely than if we had Ellie do it. And I think things turned out pretty mild.
Yeah, for
compared to-
sure.
Yeah.
And it really seemed like even some of the, we had Mary who was also kind of thinking that, why would we be using a child? What would a child kind of know, about the situation? But it also seemed like, using Ellie, everybody seemed really surprised by how much she was kind of like aware of what was going on in the family as well.
Yeah, and I think despite the resistance at first, I don't even think it was Ellie specifically that brought it about. I think everyone just having enough of an open mind, even if it was just barely enough, to allow for this exercise to happen once they were in the positions, were open to all the emotions and thoughts and insight that might have come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if they were placed in a more antagonizing or more extreme scenario, if one of the members who was more actively conflicted
Mm-hmm.
created it, they would not probably have opened up as much or been as accepting of what they saw.
Right.
It seemed like Ellie created a very neutral, or at least as neutral as possible,
Right.
sculpture.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about, when Lucy kind of started to really blame herself for everything that was going on and you kind of stepped in at that moment? So what was kind of going through your mind?
Right. I think a little bit of countertransference came out there.
Mm.
I think I was a little bit protective because I saw how much she was doing. And I think maybe it would have been better to allow another one of the family members to step in instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I did it, and I think ultimately it did have a positive effect, was to highlight the systemic nature of what we're doing here, not that
Mm-hmm.
one person is responsible. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, it would have been really interesting if I had remembered to link it to how initially Crystal was viewed as the problem,
Right.
and everything was around her, and now Lucy was now envisioning herself in this role. And I think it probably would have been better if I made that connection at the time, but ultimately highlighting that everyone is responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in the same ways, but everyone is responsible for the family's current situation,
Mm-hmm.
and except maybe Ellie, because that seems to be everyone's agreement. But
Well, definitely, when everyone first started the session, it seemed like everyone was kind of pointing fingers at another person. And so what I hear you saying is you're trying to kind of have everyone share some of that responsibility as that family unit.
And I think that ended up tying into the discussion about everyone's current contribution to the conflict being a result of their failed adaptation to a bad situation, and not something that's inherently bad about their personality. Like, you are not the common thread, therefore you are the problem because of X, Y, or Z characteristics. It's because these are the attempts that we've made to fix this situation which has gone bad, and it comes
really
from a place.
Deep pathologizing.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone,
It's not really a result of anything that's inherent in someone's personality. These are our attempts to fix the situation, and they're not going right. And it's I kind of wanted to facilitate a discussion that was allowed everyone to view each other's attempts more empathetically, like for their attempt and not for how it was manifesting, because we all already know that it's manifesting poorly.
Right. So something that I noticed, while watching the session is that you really pointed out like body languages. So can you tell me a little bit about why you did that?
Right. Well, like we discussed before we reviewed the session, the symbolic experiential approach is very mindfulness, very here and now, present oriented, and part of helping clients and families be aware of and express their emotions comfortably is for me to increase their awareness of it. And sometimes it seems very confrontational or maybe even unnecessary or obvious to point out something that just happened. But sometimes, even though clients will see these in other members or know that they're doing it, they don't necessarily make the emotional connection behind their actions. It's kind of like multiple people probably saw Mary, reflexively respond. But to turn that into a conversation about what were you feeling, and I noticed like I almost reflected what she was feeling, but I wanted her to say it, and I stopped myself. I think not just allowing Mary to verbalize it in the moment, but also letting everyone else hear it and see that there's something deeper than just maybe like a physical response. Say Crystal closing up during a certain part of the conversation, but then being verbally more open during another part. It seems subtle, it seems obvious, but it's very important to
kind of bring out that unspoken.
Exactly, and to differentiate between the two parts of the conversation, because if we had just seen her close up and not mention it, and then after that discussion, then everyone would just maybe not see that, okay, well, you were open while talking about being home more and spending more time with the family and not doing drugs, but you closed up when your friends were brought into question. And so that's an important differentiation to make, because now when I address that, the family now sees, and Crystal now sees, I'm not opposed to any of this, I'm open, but I'm closed because of one thing you said. So this one thing is an area that is sensitive to me, but everything else is okay.
Right. So it really is things that are being left unsaid that are still impacting the family and actually bringing these conversations. I know from watching the video, it sounds like they're not really having these kinds of conversations at home on that kind of emotional, level. They don't really get there.
Right.
I
think they even verbalize that in the session. Like, we don't have these kinds of conversations.
Right.
And they're not really natural conversations for people to have, so it's not really their fault. This family's somewhat, as far as emotional maturity and communication, is pretty normal, pretty representative of a normal family in this society, because people don't talk like this. It's not in our dialect, and it seems odd and weird, and that's why there's a bit of resistance at first. But calling people out for certain things, it does require a bit of confrontation, and it may create a bit of a rift and discomfort between me and the family at first.
Well, you really immediately kind of confronted, Mary right from the start as well.
Right, about modeling and control. And see, with the confrontation, I guess you have to kind of play to your audience. I felt like with Mary, you had to be tactful, because I didn't want to insult her, and I didn't want to shut her down because clearly she has a current issue with control and feeling like she needs to be superior, like she's entitled to her role in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense given what Crystal said. And maybe that kind of highlighted the fear of hers about like, oh, I don't fit this role.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to shut her down, but at the same time, I needed her to agree with what I was doing.
Can you share with us kind of what was going through your mind? What was kind of your goal when you asked each family member to speak directly to the other members about what it is they wanted from them, what kind of changes they wanted?
Right. So it may seem only loosely related to it, but it kind of ties into the emotional awareness and emotional expression and
Mm-hmm.
being in the here and now. And like you mentioned before about like, it seemed like they don't have these types of communications at
Mm-hmm.
home. So the idea is, it may be obvious, it may be something that you don't expect to happen, and it kind of ties into what Crystal was saying about like, yeah, if they didn't fight, then I'd be home, but that's not going to happen.
Mm.
And as soon as you shut it down, you won't even say it.